her daughter is there, and she's the whole family is visiting.
There were you. I'm assuming this is my spot.
I think so.
I didn't see any other organs.
Okay, it is 7 o'clock, October 24th. I am Commissioner Packer, and I will call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Kaysville City Planning Commission. We'll begin with any declaration of conflict of interest. No issues. All right, we'll jump right into our items then. Item number 3 on the agenda is a rezone request and public hearing for 1397 Willowbrook Lane from an R120 single-family residential to an R114 single-family residential for an application by Symphony Homes. Thank
you, Chairman Packer. So this is a 0.5 acre lot on the western side of Flint Street, and the requested zone change is to R114. And the intent of the proposed rezone is to allow for the installation of a stub street for the Encore Estate subdivision, which lies directly to the west. They were kind enough to send us a graphic here that illustrates what this would accomplish. It is a relatively straightforward rezone application, as the R120 and R114 zones are both single family. Additionally, because the setbacks for these zones are also consistent, approving this rezone wouldn't change the functionality of the surrounding neighborhood at all.
And I don't think everybody can hear you.
And
A little closer to the mic.
because of this, approving the rezone would maintain and support the character of the neighborhood, and therefore be supported by the general plan. As far as public comments, we received only one comment expressing general support for the rezone. A total of 33 public notices were mailed out, and staff is recommending approval of this rezone with support of the 2022 general plan.
All right. Do we have a representative from Symphony Homes? Do you have any comments? If you have anything you want to add, please come up, state your name, and
I'll make more of an introduction. So I'm Matt Loveland, Symphony Homes. Ann had everything to say. I'm happy to answer any questions. I mean, the bottom line is this gives greater connectivity between two communities, and we're looking forward to continue to build. So if there's any questions, I can do my best to speak to anything, but thank you for your time.
thank you.
So I just want to clarify. So the rezone is necessary because we will be putting like a single lot on there, but it'll just be smaller square footage. Is that correct? So there's room for the road?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we just happen to be on both sides of the two projects. So
I see.
That makes sense. But yeah, it is actually quite a great idea just to work within some of the limitations with the site while also trying to accomplish, again, that connectivity aspect.
Yeah.
Any other questions or? I believe we do. This is also a public hearing for this issue. So we will go ahead and open up that public hearing for this particular issue. If there's anyone here who would like to speak to this particular rezone, this is your chance to come up and.
My name's Bruce Stanley. This is in my backyard. And so I'm opposed to putting the stub in towards Wet Lane, primarily because I think it's going to increase traffic through our neighborhood. And I feel like there's plenty of access around, if you go down to Angel and go around the corner, you're into that subdivision. When we talked to the owner of Symphony initially, they were not really pro the stub, and it's going to decrease the house sizes in that area as well. There's already a stub at the end of Willowbrook Lane that it does stub into this new subdivision in Webb Lane that's undetermined what it's going to be at this point in time. And so, and generally, I don't want additional traffic through my neighborhood. Plus, we have a lot of green spaces that we support as a neighborhood, and the more traffic that comes through there, the more those green spaces get used by general public, and we're the ones, they're private green spaces that we're supporting with our HOA funds. So those are the reasons why I'd be opposed to this.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Janelle Stanley. I'm interested in hearing from Symphony because when Symphony originally had planned this community, they were trying to match the back end of our neighborhood lot sizes and housing sizes. And so to hear that now that they are changing why they want to add the stub, we were told that from Symphony that it was the city that was requiring the stub out to Webb Lane. So I'd just like to hear what Symphony has to say.
We'll wait and see if there's any more public comment, and then we'll have you come back up. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing for this item. Would you like to come back up and address that concern or that question?
Absolutely. And I'm happy to connect with you guys afterwards. It's not as simple as adding in stuff, and we respect that. I will acknowledge Symphony Homes was opposed to the stub at one point in time. And so if there's a departure in expectations, that comes from a lack of communication. And so we'll acknowledge that. The connectivity between the two projects, it was a recommendation from staff, and working through some of the limitations with the site, because as Encore, as we call it, the future project, it's a small site, and we can, I think there's interpretation out there that for justification to not have the connection into that community, but at the same time, I know that the Kaysville General Plan definitely supports, again, connectivity between those neighborhoods, and so that's where it reverted back to, the general plan being the recommendation and governing document for staff to make the recommendation that we do make the connection, and the rezone is an outcome of that to accommodate both the stub. And I will say that the homes themselves, we've spent a lot of time trying to maximize and make sure that we complement more than anything the existing community. And so the homes will be the same, actually. There won't, the zoning has no change on that. It purely just adjusts the minimum lot size, but the size of the home, we can still put and plan to put an equivalent home on that. And so hopefully that speaks to it. If there's further questions, I'm happy to go into it, as well as there's lots of history beyond that too.
So the location of roads is determined by city code, and that's the discretion of the city engineer. One of the things that, frankly, Kaysville has done a poor job of developing the community is having connectivity. We have a lot of cul-de-sacs, and that creates a lot of obstacles. It's more difficult to have a sense of community. Travel distances become more challenging. You may have to drive a mile to get to the home that backs up to your yard. So this is something that is coming from city staff, and something that we did go back and forth with the developer, with Symphony Homes, and I think they have unhappily finally agreed to put that road stub in. The Encore Estates is at the point where they are it's an administrative approval, meaning if they meet code, we will approve that subdivision. And we appreciate Symphony to finally bring forward a plan that does include that road stub. It is an important thing, and one, that in the end it may be counterintuitive, but it probably will reduce traffic in some instances where instead of driving back and forth, you have a more direct route and a way to get over to Angel faster. So it is something that's coming from staff, and at this point, the subdivision, right, is not, and the road location isn't what we're determining tonight. It's just whether or not the Planning Commission will forward a recommendation of approval or denial for the rezone of this property. When Mountain Vista's subdivision, when this phase, I think it was phase 5, was done, all of those lots in there are 20,000 square feet. If this is approved, it will allow them to reduce the lot size to, I think, about 17,000 square feet. As Ms. McNamara said, the setbacks won't change. The front setbacks are the same, and so from an aesthetic standpoint, it really won't change the look or the feel of the neighborhood, although, of course, the subdivision to the west will. But something that is coming from staff, something that we feel strongly about, and I know that when we discussed the rezone for the Encore Estates, that the City Council in particular, there's minutes that state that they would like to see a road stub. So we're following through with their wish, and as well, Mr. Loveland mentioned the general plan, and we have a whole chapter on connectivity, and it's just something that we feel like is important.
So it was good to point out, important to point out that we're tonight just dealing with the rezone. We're not looking at the design of the lot or of the street or anything. That's something, as you mentioned, was determined by staff at some earlier point. So the only thing we're considering is the rezone here tonight. Having said that, as you mentioned also, our general plan does talk about increasing connectivity in the community. I mean, the ideal would be to have a grid street pattern. Now, we're not going to get a complete grid, but the more connections that we can provide, the more it disperses traffic, the more it gives options for people, the more it gives alternate ways in case streets are blocked off for whatever reason because of work or accidents or whatever may be going on. So while we're not dealing with that issue, I personally would just say I support the increased connectivity. But again, we're just dealing with the rezone tonight.
Can I add to that and ask a question? I think I'm with you, Wilf, but also with the number of circles in their connectivity also provides easier emergency vehicle access. I think that's an important thing to remember. If your house is on fire, you probably want easier access to those circles.
Yeah,
so,
and
it happens. It happened on Sunset last year, right? And that was quick access, and still couldn't save the house. So,
yeah, and Willowbrook Lane will connect through into Angel. We're simply thinking or looking into the future for that development of the agricultural parcel directly south. And there is, towards the very far east end, a stub road already, but that's quite a distance. And while in again, the conversations with the related but also unrelated matter of the subdivision, the fire chief, that stub road isn't required to meet fire code. However, it is always better for our public safety and first responders to have more connectivity. It's also easier for our streets crews that go and plow roads. It's just a lot more favorable for a lot of reasons to have that road stubbed in and that future road connection.
So if we did not do the rezone, what would be the consequences?
Well, and Ms. McNamara said, the intent of this really is let me go back to the slide that shows
there are utilities that are currently located in the area, and the intent is to keep those utilities under asphalt, under public right-of-way. So, we talked about, okay, you could leave the lot as it is, but then we have to have an easement, which can easily be done, but then if there is some type of an issue, the sewer line needs to be repaired or the water line breaks, now we're working outside of the public right-of-way and into private property with the easement, but it just makes things a lot more complicated. So our city standard is to try and keep all of those utilities to the extent possible as we can under the asphalt and in that public right-of-way. So to answer the question, if this doesn't happen, a couple of things could occur. One would be that we do have the easements and the utilities stay where they are under and would be not underneath the road. That also could relocate those utilities, which is costly and disruptive as well to the people who are currently being served by those utilities. The other thing that could possibly be done is that stub gets moved. We want to keep that stub as far east as we can so that it is far away from Angel Street as possible. And the design of the Encore subdivision also has an alignment with a cul-de-sac that would be less than ideal to have both of these roads connect at a distance or an angle that just is not desirable.
Because the stub and the street is going in at the city's behest, and the property owners agreed to do that. It could be, the lot could be this size and the zoning could stay the way it is, but then the lot becomes a non-conforming lot. It still has certain rights, can probably do pretty much everything that they're going to do as they're going to do now. It's just cleaner to have it rezoned to the size of the lot. Because non-conformity, sometimes there's issues with that about not being able to do certain things that everybody else in the neighborhood could do. I don't know that that would be the case here. I don't know that it would be that big of a deal, but it's just kind of cleaner if it's going to be a smaller lot than the 20,000 square feet to probably go to the next zone down.
Yeah, I'll just say from my point of view, all it really is a slightly smaller lot. You end up with the same size of house or height, setback, all those kinds of things. I feel like it is cleaner. It abuts right up next to an area that it's already zoned, R114. It just seems to make a lot of sense. And I do remember where we talked about that new subdivision, the Encore Estates going in, and we did talk about the forward-thinking idea of having a stub road for potential future development there to the south. So to me, most things lean towards this being a good decision and good for the area. Other questions, comments, feedback from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I motion that we recommend approval of the rezone in front of us tonight for Symphony Homes at 1397 West Willowbrook Lane from R120 to R114. And here are some findings to support that motion, and I will in advance welcome any additions or comment on any of the findings. Finding number one is that this is highly recommended by staff who have reviewed the general plan and find that there is compliance with our general plan. Number two, the reason for the rezone to create connectivity is empirically shown that more connectivity is better than less connectivity. Specifically, the city has a great number of cul-de-sacs, including the area in which I live. And so my personal experience living in Kaysville is we have plenty of cul-de-sacs, and we need more connectivity, more streets, more through streets. Next finding is that the lot size is compatible with other abutting zones because there is R114 nearby. Does it actually abut R114 zoning, this property? Then there's no hurdle there at all. If there is a R114 abutting, that's perfect because we are not creating a non-conforming lot in a separate zone, although the concept of spot zoning is not really an issue here anymore in Utah. This rezone, from the perspective of me as the motioner, is that this does not negatively impact homes in the neighborhood in a measurable way. And the fact that it is within character. What is the remaining lot size? It'll be at least 14,000, is that correct? Okay. And including another finding is that the setbacks are not negatively impact building height, and that the size of home that will be built on this lot will be is compatible with those that are in the neighborhood. That's my motion. Again, I will welcome comments, additions, subtractions, perhaps.
I'd second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Well stated, Paul.
Well stated, he said. Yeah, there's the R.
All right, we'll start our voting then with Commissioner Allred.
Aye.
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 All right, the motion passes. Do we have an idea of when this might then go to the City Council? For those who might be interested
It
in.
will probably be November 7th. 'Cause I don't think, yeah, because the City Council oddly is not going to have a meeting on Thanksgiving evening, so we'll try and get it on the agenda for November 7th.
Okay. All right, agenda item number 4, a rezone request and public hearing for 109 South, 1025 West from R120 single-family residential to R114 single-family residential for applicants David and Valerie Becker.
Thank you, Chairman Packer. As you stated, this is a rezone for the Becker family from an R120 zone to R114. And the intent of the rezone is to correct significant property line discrepancy between that lot and the lot directly adjacent to it. That'll be accomplished through a lot line adjustment. And in order to adjust these lot lines, the Becker property needs to have a lot size that is less than 20,000 square feet. So rezoning it to R114 would accomplish that. Additionally, so similar to the prior rezone, the setbacks for R120 and R114 are consistent and therefore would not change the functionality of the neighborhood, meaning that the character and functionality would remain the same as encouraged in the general plan. As far as noticing goes, there were a total of 43 notices mailed out to property owners, and only one comment was received, just expressing general support for the rezone. With that in mind, staff is recommending approval of the zone change with support of the 2022 general plan to enable a better conforming lot and to address the prior discrepancy.
Thank you. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant have anything to share with the commission?
David Becker, Valerie and I were just here in support of our neighbors, trying to help them clear up a mistake that was made many years ago between them and a previous owner, and get things so that the lots are compliant and everybody can move forward with selling and buying and everything else. Any questions?
Either for you or for the staff, what does it reduce the lot size to?
Well, it takes off 2,300 square feet. So we're 0.46 now, we'll be 0.41 after.
Okay, so you're going to be right around 18,000 square feet, pretty close to that. Not much smaller.
Chair Packer, if I may just say, I know this has been a difficult situation for the two property owners over there, and I've appreciated their kind willingness to work through this and find a solution that helps protect future property owners, keep the lots conforming, and it delayed, I know, one of the closures that they were looking to sell the property, but definitely solves all of the issues, and hopefully it'll get approved at the council level. And I just wanted to let both of the neighbors know I really appreciated their, like I said, their kindness if they've sorted through an issue that's been really difficult for them.
So as I understand, it's just a shift of the property line, just a few feet. I mean, point.
Yeah, if we go back
I know
to
5 acres, you know, is not a significant.
Yeah, so this aerial just shows where that new property line will come right up along here. There's actually a chain link fence that exists, and so 30 plus years ago, they just were off with where the property line was, and so proceeded a number of years after that to build on a detached building that right now where that property line is not conforming. So they would need, I think, about 6 feet of a setback, and they're right on the property line. So, it does solve that issue. Just as a mistake that happened 30 years ago and wasn't caught until the property owners went to sell.
I suppose we'll open up this matter for public comment at this time. So if there's anyone else here who would like to speak to this matter, now is your chance. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing section and discussion among the commissioners.
So just a question again and Melinda, I think you kind of referred to this, and one of you can respond. So the accessory building right now is right on the property line, and so this will make it so that it's not on the property line.
That's correct.
Which makes the other lot smaller, but it doesn't affect any structures on that other lot.
No.
So, okay.
In fact, it sounds like they've been using that as the property line, what we're going to change it to if this were to pass. So,
Yeah, because I was kind of wondering, I thought, if it's not going to change anything in that regard, even if it becomes non-conforming, it isn't going to hurt anything. But I wasn't aware or didn't realize that there is already a structure on the property line and it helps that situation. So.
Yeah, in fact, I received a phone call the Thursday before Labor Day from a realtor saying, hey, we've just realized this is a problem. We're supposed to close on Tuesday. And of course, that brings us to this evening. This, as far as solving issues, the issue with this is, of course, that non-conforming of the detached garage. And we were able to find the site plan from when that was submitted a number of years ago, and it showed the setback to be 52 feet. But
Oh,
of course,
really?
that's because they did not have the correct property line.
Oh, wow, interesting.
So that chain link fence is about 52 feet away. So, you know, in theory, the city could force the Kinneys to demolish the garage, which we do not wish to do. This is just a better solution for them. The Beckers and the Kinneys have already submitted a lot line adjustment and have that plat ready to go. So once the council, if the council approves the rezone, then we can basically turn around within a number of days, hopefully, and get that lot line adjustment taken care of for them.
Well, and for me, this is a situation where the neighbors have worked this out and they're all agreeable to this, and I don't see that it really hurts anything in regard to the status of the properties there. Sounds like a good solution.
Yeah, I think changing zoning on individual lots is not what we would think of as an ideal situation in general, but in specific circumstances, when it can solve some problems, I really understand the ability of this to do that. And, you know, I think the city has there's nothing that the city, you know, has writing on this where they should really want it a certain way versus another way that I can think of. This just does make a lot of sense to me to do this to, you know, help the property owners take care of their property.
Commissioner Summercorn, or Commissioner Wilf.
It's okay.
Wilfercorn mentioned earlier.
Wilfercorn? That's a new one for me.
I think it's a keeper. You know, one of the issues that comes along with nonconformity is one that can create problems further down the line with refinancing.
Yes, right.
If the detached garage were to be damaged somehow, would we issue a permit to rebuild in its place? And the answer to that is no, because it doesn't meet proper setbacks. And so, you know, chances of that happening are relatively small, but it does happen. And a lot of times when we do have like zoning verifications that come to us, whether it's a title company or realtor, will call and say, hey, there's this property, what can we do? Blah, blah, blah. Is there anything non-conforming about it? That goes back to the lenders, that they don't want to lend on something that if it's damaged, burned down, forces de majeure, you know, they can't replace it. And they don't want to add on to the value of the mortgage with that non-conforming structure. Or non-complying structure. So this really, as I said, it's, I think, a great solution that the neighbors have worked out. It protects the future buyer. It, you know, solves an issue. The city, we can close the book on it. And, you know, had the Kinneys not gone to sell, we may have never known that this was an issue, and maybe it would have been discovered, maybe not. But again, this is a great opportunity to solve a problem that exists. It's existed for quite a while, but really solving it without any detrimental impacts to the neighborhood. Like, really, you're not even going to know that a property line has changed because they've been acting, you know, for 30 years that was the property line. And there won't be any more structures added. It's not increasing density. It's just solving a problem.
Lot line adjustments are difficult. I mean, they go deep, just like you were saying. So it goes all the way down to showing things on title on your property that is not yours. So this is a great solution.
I'd say kudos to you all for, you know, working with each other and looking out for each other in a amiable and, you know, resourceful way. So
yeah, it's a stressful situation.
It sounds like we can get on board.
Mr. Chair, you ready for a motion?
I am.
I would make a motion that we recommend to the City Council approval of the rezone of the property at 109 South, 1025 West, David and Valerie Becker as owners, from the R120 zone to the R114 zone for the reasons stated here with the working out of the property line issue between the neighbors and the fact that this does not affect the status of the homes on either lot, makes one accessory structure more conforming, or conforming period, and is compliant with the city's general plan.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll start the voting here with Commissioner Shepard.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Hope this can get things closed up for you and
So, all the feels. We'll get this on for November 7th. And if you're going to be back down in Sun Lakes, which, by the way, Beckers, it's very nice to visit Chandler, Arizona, one of my former employers in the wintertime. We can work out maybe a phone call if you don't want to come back up for that. But certainly I appreciate your effort to be here this evening, and should be able to get you on for November 7th. If anything changes with that, we'll let you know. But plan on November 7th at 7 o'clock back here.
all right, agenda item number 5, approval of the minutes for the October 10th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
I wasn't here.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes, October 10th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Other matters that come before the Planning Commission?
Mindy had sent an email or forwarded to the commission that Wasatch Front Regional Council, our Metropolitan Planning Organization, is having a fall workshop to get feedback from council members, staff, planning commissioners. That'll be
Tuesday.
Yep, Tuesday the 29th from 4 to 6 in Farmington, and that'll be at their community center just right across from their main city hall there, and then from the county offices. And it's a great opportunity to kind of see what some of the plans are for the area. Gosh, there was something else I was going to mention with that. This Wasatch Front is doing 2 different workshops in Davis County, but this one is specifically for the southern end of Davis County. So
We're considered the southern end.
yeah, I guess so.
I guess so.
We're the northern part of the
That
southern end.
seems surprising to me, too. Who's north?
I'd say South Kaysville is in the south end. Everything north of, I don't know.
Burton Lane.
North of Burton, yeah, is central.
Yeah, I'm going to try to go to that. I went to the one that they did last fall that they mentioned in the email here, and it was really interesting. They had city people from all the cities, from Kaysville down to North Salt Lake, and they had UDOT people and a whole bunch of stuff, and we had big tables with big maps, and people were marking up the maps, and it was talking mostly about transportation and biking and bike lanes and things like of that nature, and that's one of the main topics there. But yeah, it was really interesting, I think.
I'm definitely going. So I think it's a really great opportunity to see what Wasatch Front, when you look at their Wasatch Choices 2050, it's a great way to get input now, 20 years in advance of, all of those goals being hopefully fulfilled. So they do great workshops. They really do. I wouldn't miss it.
Nice. I'll try to be there.
I will also try to attend.
And I think they normally do it like just a an open house type of it, you know, so you don't have to be there from 4 to 6. You show up at 4:45 or 5:45, and so there's flexibility, hopefully, for your schedules.
Yes.
There were some last year.
Yeah.
Probably some
Water and
bottles
a
of water
cookie.
for sure.
You would not believe how much that drives people coming. It really does.
I don't know how we get you all here every Thursday without treats.
Hey, FYI to the group, I got an email a couple of days ago, or actually it was yesterday, I think, and being invited to a kind of a working group meeting on betterments for West Davis corridor for the Farmington area. And I've been...
Boy, I got slammed by that yesterday.
Well, better, you know, decorative features and other things, you know. And this is really about the 950, right? You guys all 950. I live really, really close to that. Does anybody else live anywhere near the new interchange on Farmington? It's right on our border, and I live about a block and a half from there. So for some reason, I got an email, and I attended the meeting, and we got about 10 minutes in, and a former Kaysville council member, her last name is Lee, I can't remember. Yeah, she was there and I was there, and then we figured about 10 minutes in that we really weren't supposed to be there because this was just for Farmington. But it's just an FYI that Farmington has received a chunk of money from UDOT to do some betterments, some improvements for West Davis corridor in Farmington. So you may be seeing stuff in the near future, how Farmington decides how they want that to look. Now, when I was on the working group for West Davis corridor a few years ago, I was able to give input from our area, and some other neighbors of mine were able to kind of decide the pot of money that UDOT gives. We were able to kind of decide how we wanted it spent, like to make the overpass look nicer, or to plant trees, or to do a berm. And so UDOT does provide money for the communities for them to decide, well, how do you want this money spent? Because there is a portion of all the federal monies and state monies that go for these highways that goes for kind of beautification. But they do give the cities a chance to kind of decide how they want to use it. So that's just an FYI. We'll have to see what Farmington does with it, but I said... Yeah. Yeah.
If you've ridden a bike out there.
Yeah.
I got home the other night and I had a live bug still in my ear.
Yeah. Well, some of the concerns we had years ago was we were really worried about how tall the overpass was going to be. Not that you can really make it shorter, but we were really concerned about how tall it would be, and then what kind of lighting would be up on the overpass, and would it be directed, you know, away from the neighborhood and stuff like that. And I got to tell you, I don't know how many of these meetings I've been to in the 27 years my home has been out there on West Davis and Legacy. But I have to really compliment UDOT on everything they've done out there. It was not a perfect process, but the impact of the new 950 West thing on our neighborhood has been super positive. A lot of the fears that I had have not been realized. In fact, traffic is less in front of my house than it was before because there's an outlet now, just like we talked about tonight, an outlet. Well, before, all my neighbors, Parkwood and Quail and Hunters Creek, they all had to get up to Shepherd Lane, you know, kind of through my neighborhood on 50 East because there was nowhere else to go. But now with the new West Davis, they can all go down on 950 and out through Debbie. And that connectivity is a lifesaver. So I'm glad we talked about that tonight. Anyway, just thought you'd be interested in that. Hey, I live closer to it than you do. I've never been able to use my backyard.
But that highway is beautiful. I love to be out there because it's so expansive and just there's nothing out there to impede your view. It's so pretty.
Well, it's a scenic byway, which I think probably allows for additional funding to make those types of beautification improvements that you may not have just along a typical interstate. I'm guessing on that, but
That makes sense. You know, that's, I'm a little jealous that we weren't accidentally invited too.
Yeah.
It is nice. You've got full views out there.
It is nice.
Yeah.
To me, it was so interesting to drive on it the first night, and like all of a sudden I was like, this is a side of my city that I've never seen.
Yeah.
It's really, it was eye-opening, wasn't
It
it?
was a totally different
Yeah.
perspective, where it didn't feel like, you know, those homes out there were the end of Kaysville. It felt like it, I don't know, it really is.
It kind of frames the neighborhoods out there. I went out and drove up on the dirt ramp, you know, before it was all built. So I've got some.
That's right.
I've got.
It was you.
Oh, I went way out before that, but I've got some really cool pictures of
You can't put those online without.
before the road was built. It was so cool to see my neighborhood from high and out there, and it's amazing how beautiful.
The homes just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's great. The trail's great. The road's great.
Yeah.
It's really, and the connector into Farmington, we drove it last week, and so fabulous. And that interchange on the Shepherd Lane is coming along.
Yeah.
I've had to my neighborhood. I've had to drive to Sunset for all those years to get on I-15 to go north. That's a long route. And because there was no way at Shepherd. So it's going to be great to be able to, you know, get off southbound and to go northbound on it.
So a couple other things. We still have the planning commissioner alternate application open. And so Mindy was going to send out another email next week, kind of just a big blast with a correct link. The link that was in the prior email did not work. We will need to meet on November 14th. We do have for sure conditional use permit for a home occupation that we'll have for that evening. And hopefully we can pull off a couple other things, maybe bring back a draft of the zoning incentives. I did also want to mention that Ann and I and Wilf were at the Utah Land Use Institute fall workshops yesterday and half day Tuesday, and I learned many new things, and one of the nice things was being able to learn about some other projects, particularly there's a project out in West Weber County, west of Plain City, that Nielsen Homes has been involved in, where they worked with the county commission, the Weber County Planning Commission, to get this project entitled that's going to have actual moderately income priced homes. And it was I'm just going to say, and in contrast to some of the other panels, it was very nice to see this really healthy and positive working relationship between the developers, the commissioners, the staff, and it'll be nice to hear how that project works out. They specifically, so these first-time homes, they will not have an attached garage. They won't have a finished basement, and that's kind of part of the reason when they're getting to affordability. But they will be set aside or prioritized to have those available for first responders, active military, teachers, and what was the other one, Ann?
I'm blanking on what the last one was.
Yeah, so really a great project, and it's nice to see, those types of things are actually happening. As you know, the state legislature has really focused and pushed a lot of requirements onto cities the last 10 years. None of the cities that I've worked in have had any of these projects come to fruition. So it's nice to know that there are developers out there and that there are communities out there that are really making things happen for this particular, affordability level for people.
Well, the interesting thing about this too was, it's right between two cities, and neither one of the cities wanted to allow it the way they were proposing or what they were talking about it. The cities wanted it to be low density, large lots, and that's all they wanted. And instead, the county took the initiative then and said, well, we'll work with you and get that done.
Which is really unique because most counties want to divest themselves of those type of developments and not bring on more. So kudos to Weber County also for being open-minded to that.
Where is that development? Do we know?
So it's out in West Weber. Gosh, I can get some information out to the commission on it, but it is, I believe, west of Plain City, because was it Plain City and West Haven that they kind of bounced back and forth between? Right. And so even, the developer was like, man, I kind of just ping-ponged between the two cities, and finally the county was the one that was agreeable to that. So, and I had
really shouldn't be that way, but it, I had the similar type of situation when I was at Salt Lake County. We had Olympia Hills proposed adjacent to Harriman, and it was a mixed use, higher density, smaller housing in some city. It was quite mixed. Harriman didn't want to have anything to do with it. They just wanted low density homes, and so eventually we wound up working with them in the county and approving it. It has now since been annexed into Harriman.
And they have a lot of higher density, medium density too.
Yeah, Harriman does, which is interesting.
Yeah. So I think that was all I had. Anything else from the commission? It's 7:51. We have 9 minutes to get out of here before 8.
There is most of the conferences and things are over now. But there is a deal next week that the American Enterprise Institute and I think the Sutherland group is doing at the Grand America Hotel on housing.
On housing, yeah. I am going to attend that.
Me too. If anybody's interested, we can probably get you. It's free.
Yeah, it's free.
And they're feeding lunch at Grand America.
It's the food kitchen.
It's called the Utah Housing Solutions workshop or something like that.
Can you
Send it out. Downtown Salt Lake.
Can you send that? I'd be interested in going. I don't know if I saw that, but I'd like to go. I just need to know where and what.
We can.
If somebody has it, can email it to me.
I've got a link.
Thank you.
I'll send that.
And we can send that out to the whole commission if you're free and available. It's it'll be again interesting to just hear the commentary, which is I think really my main motivator for going is just to kind of keep a good pulse on what others are thinking. We had Governor Cox yesterday that came and spent nearly an hour with the Land Use Institute attendees, and were able to hear from him firsthand and even have kind of a back and forth dialogue. And so, as a leader of our state, and the concerns of the housing are really just, it's good, I think, for, especially staff, but all of us to kind of keep a good pulse on what's happening with that out there. The Land Use Institute will also be posting the panel discussions, and so
the entire conference.
Yeah, so we can send that out. The one that they discussed on the Weber County development. It was a really good panel discussion. I think one of the most interesting that I've heard, especially you have all of these kind of varying partners, and they just work together to make it happen. And even Commissioner Harvey said that at first he was dead set against it, but kind of came around and just kind of had some moments of clarity where he was like, this is the right thing to do. One of the commissioners is the former mayor of West Haven, and so that was an evolution for her as well. And, like I said, it's nice to know that there are other groups and entities out there that have this open-mindedness towards really having solutions for these types of issues that really, they're not going to go away. They're not going to get any better. So.
Thank you. We know our 1 hour meeting really rests on the back of a lot of hours of your work, and it always runs so well, and you guys have done such great prep work for us, so thank you.
I was on a panel last week was it 2 weeks ago, Utah APA, our fall conference. Anyway, on a panel on NIMBY and YIMBY with 3 really talented other people. And we presented, I don't know, there were probably 100, 150 people in the room. But if anybody's interested in kind of the outline of the information that we put together, Nick Dirksen, who's with UTA, and he's now at the Point. He's one of the head guys at the Point. He was with Sandy City for a long time. And then Augie Wasman with ULI. And then Chris Hupp with SOMAS. Anyway, we've put together a group, and 2 are in the private sector, and then 2 of us were in the public sector. But we put together, I think, a really fun outline on strategies and things that you can do to reduce the impact of NIMBYs, how to work with NIMBYs, how to promote more yes instead of no. And so I think we're going to continue to go out and speak as a group on a panel every time we get a chance. But I think the best way we can do that is probably to make sure we have at least an hour, because there's so many questions that people have that they wanted to ask, but we just ran out of time. There's so much material. But if any of you are interested in the dynamics of not in my backyard and how to get to yes in my backyard and how to handle public opposition at meetings, I'm happy to share that outline with anybody.
You've got the, send it out.
Yeah, I can send you guys, it's 3 or 4 pages of notes, and we need,
Send it to us and we can.
yeah, I'll send it to you guys, but there's some pretty good ideas from our years of experience from the private sector as developers presenting to crowds and stuff, and then as planners. And one of the reasons I'm on the panel is because as a retired planner, I'm not fearful of a city council member or a mayor going, hey, what's our planning director out there doing, talking about not in my backyard people and how to handle crowds and stuff. So my tongue is probably the freest of the group, which is really nice because, you know, a lot of the times you can't. Even as a planning commissioner, you can speak more freely than you can as staff. So anyway, it's been a lot of fun putting those thoughts and ideas together. I'll send it to you, to staff, so you guys can look at it.
You know, one other thought too, I can send out the link to register for this, but I think it is next week as well, and it's just a webinar, but the Modern Income Housing Group is going to have a presentation on what Farmington has done with their detached ADU ordinance, and so I'll send that out to everyone as well, and especially it's free, just watch it while you're sitting at home in your pajamas, and Mindy and Ann and I are working hard away at the city offices.
Farmington's getting a lot of recognition for that.
Yeah, they are. And surprisingly, Wilf, I've seen a little bit of some real backlash too. It's limited, but some people are really like shocked, like, how dare they? What are they doing? And it's mostly from Farmington residents because they're saying, well, we have enough housing, no more housing. And it's like, well, the stuff they're doing around Station Park makes sense because there's connectivity there with Legacy and, of course, I-15 and the commercial. So it's a perfect blend, I think. I think Station Park, for the most part, really, you know, hit it out of the park. But this ADU stuff, there are real opposition to the ADU stuff. And again, it's mostly local folks in Farmington. Kind of feeling like they're doing too much already.
Yeah, they have a lot of housing. Well, we'll look for lots of links in our text, email.
All right, we made it to your hour, so we better adjourn.
I'm seriously planning.
Let's keep going a little longer.
All right.
We're done.
Yep, we'll move to adjourn.
I deserve that.
Someone make an adjournment.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. We are adjourned.